So no fluff or circumstance. So I am Shireen Hafiz. I am the founder of the national outreach nonprofit organization called Deaf Kids Code. And the mission is simple. We promote computer science, technology, and design thinking skills to kids who are deaf or hard of hearing. Okay. Is this mic working? Or am I supposed to turn it on? Okay. So the story is not a simple one, but it's a very clear one of how I stumbled into this space. And, you know, I am the mother of a child that was diagnosed with severe hearing loss. So that is the catalyst for everything. It wasn't just because I had a burning desire to start anything. I didn't at all whatsoever. But my child was diagnosed as, you know, identifying on the spectrum of deafness. And I am like the rest of you, you know, that maybe, you know, grew up in a mainstream, you know, society and environment where, you know, I was not exposed or immersed within a community of the disability community per se. And let me tell you how that flips the script and your perspective. It's not just by virtue of being a mother and having a child with the diagnosis. The catalyst is actually when you discover how inaccessible society is. And not just about the lack of accessibility and the unwillingness to bend towards accessibility, but aside from that, when you look at the data of this community, you see that it has not made leaps and bounds. So though, you know, the disability community, especially those that are deaf and hard of hearing, they've never left our society, right? They've always been among us, and they're very much among us. In the state of Indiana, over 250 babies born every year are diagnosed as deaf or hard of hearing. And that's only in the years that I became involved with a local advocacy group where we started tracking that data. There wasn't even meaningful data at that time that my son was diagnosed, which then stumbles into bad policies, because in order to change policies, you have to have data. And if you don't have data, you have no claim to anything. You can't fight, there's nothing, right? So, you know, it's hard to say if the chicken came before the egg, but as you can see, I took it very personally and made it a cause, you know, that you know, we've got to do something. Now, I grew up in Chicago. I'm not born and raised in Indiana. So I'm an outsider, though I've been living here now for over 25 years. So I am a Hoosier. But I didn't have the network. I didn't have the community. I didn't have my uncle lives in Noblesville, my aunt she's on city council. I didn't have no connections, no network, nothing, okay? And that's important to say because this is a leadership, you know, discussion. And how did a nobody, you know, end up, you know, creating this rippling effect of change that has like impacted hundreds and thousands of individuals in our state? And it is a mystery, you know, part of it. I think that some of it was luck, but also maybe timing and also strategy. And it's just this combination of, and also grit and an unyielding to, you know, to just remain steadfast and unapologetic about what is right. So what's so interesting is that, so I'm going to take a step back because, you know, so when my son was diagnosed, you know, the first call you make is to the insurance company to say, hey, my kid needs hearing aids, like ASAP, you know, and we just assume that what is a logical, you know, accessibility device that has mountains of data showing that amplification can render better results in the way you engage in society and safety. We were told that I'm sorry, we can't cover your child's hearing aids. It's actually considered a cosmetic device, like as if I'm getting a tummy tuck, right, or a nose job. They said that it's considered a cosmetic device, which we all know is like the most absurd and incredibly insulting statement. But they could say that because we didn't have an insurance mandate in the state. In fact, there was no insurance mandate in over half the states in the country at that time. So this is where, you know, as a hearing person, a non-disabled person, a person that now is getting my foot in dipping into the puddle of allyship and advocacy, that's how it started. That's how it all began. That was where it began. And, you know, it just is so unbelievable to me that, because now my son is a senior in high school, how far we've come and what all has happened by that one moment of diagnosis and this rippling effect of, like, you know, of just, because, you know, you feel a great sense of responsibility, not just because, you know, I'm the mother. I could have just raised my child, you know, utilized all our resources on him and called it a day and moved on with our lives. But I didn't, because it just seems so morally incorrect to, you know, and as an ally for a community, not a leader for the community, but an ally and an advocate for the community, it was a moral imperative to keep scaffolding and building out opportunities, because it was a responsibility, because I'm not part of their community, which increases my responsibility to create the ecosystem towards equality and democratizing access. So this all happened. That's my son giving testimony in front of the state and Senate committee. And we were successful in passing a state-funded program for children 19 years and younger, and anybody that needs hearing aids gets them. So that was a relief. So that's how it all began. And I really love this quote, is that you're sitting under a tree because someone planted a seed a long time ago. The issue with the way we build out legacies is that you're not doing it for the purpose of building a legacy. That's not the mindset. Leadership has nothing to do with ego. If you have ego, you will falter so fast in your leadership role, faster than you blink your eye. You will lose, and everybody else is going to go down that ship fast. If ego is a vice that is within you, you fight to change that, because you're going to get nowhere. You're not going to compel people to come to your side of the aisle. That's not a winning attitude, right? It's like, I mean, here I am. I'm not a native Hoosier. I'm a woman of color. I'm, you know, the list goes on and on and on of, like, for every reason why it shouldn't have been me. Why me? Aside from the fact that, you know, but why should any of the legislators listen to me? Why? Who am I? I'm not a millionaire bankrolling, giving heavy donations to the senators or the state representatives. I mean, they very easily could have said no. But what I think, the assumption I'm going to make, is that I came from a place that was genuine. And I think that what was more fearful on the part of the individuals that came to be part of, you know, this process, that process particularly, was the fact that not just sincerity, but the fact that it was very clear that I wasn't going to stop. It was the relentlessness, maybe, that was the fearful. You know, like, you are what you believe. Do you know how true that is? Like, you are what you believe. So if you start your day saying, oh man, it's, you know, crap, I have this, I have that, or whatever, that's going to be that's how the day is going to end. But if you believe, okay, you know what, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be, but I'm just going to try my best. You know, there is this process of manifestation, you know, and you don't even realize what you're manifesting. So the belief system that you have in yourself and how you start your day is going to be the rippling effect of how everything else is going to play out. And I know it's easy to say. I know it's easy to say, right? It's like you're a senior, right? The world is at your feet. The world is at your feet, but you have to believe that, right? Because you're going to manifest that when you're being interviewed, when you're looking for, when you're networking, right? You have to believe that you have a lot to offer. Because if you believe it, they'll believe it. And if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it either. So I think that there is a certain belief system, and when you talk to other founders, that have done other things, you're going to see a very similar pattern. Of course, everybody's going to have their own style. Not all leaders are, loud and boisterous and walking around with a bat. There's a lot of virtue to the very, sharp and introverted, leadership style too. But this quote in particular is important because nobody gets somewhere without the help of others. I didn't get to this level because I begged people or whatever. It was like this whole process of like building relationships, proving that you have integrity, that what you're doing, that you have a certain morale, that you have a certain ethical plane that you ride from. And I think that is very important. So even if you are a manager or whatever, how do you rise? How is someone going to endorse you for where you work? It's going to be because of that. That's what's going to set you apart from everybody else. That's how you rise. And that's what compels people to want to endorse you. So even when you work for a company, or you're in a university and you're going for tenure or whatever, you're looking for grants, you want to move up in your company and you get hired and you're excited, it's going to be a brand new job and it's so cool, and you're just going to learn as much as you can with enthusiasm, right? That's the attitude that's going in. It may not be the role that you wish you had, but that's the stepping stone to get you to where you need to go. A broken clock is right twice a day, right? So, so it's, there's a certain positivity that you have to have. All right, let's see, how do we do this? All right. So started Deaf Kids Code more than 7.5 years ago. And when I started it, and this is important, and I'm not ashamed of it at all. In fact, I toot my horn about the fact that my background is neither technology or education. Started Deaf Kids Code by the simple belief that we're living in the digital age and that the barriers that existed for previous generations that kept certain populations and communities oppressed, that suppressed their ability to have social and economic mobility, can be bypassed through honing technology skills. And the same goes for you guys too, though you may come from privilege, you may not come from privilege, but nevertheless, any of you have the ability to have an idea, to innovate something, build something, and contribute through the digital age. You could have a side hustle on Etsy. You could be, you could put an app on Google Store. The world has never been so prime and open to innovators and ideas and change makers. It's actually a very exciting time to be in your generation because you're actually born into the digital age, So it's crazy. We've worked with over 8,000 students across the country and in some parts of the world virtually, have hosted, programming in, over 30 locations, and there's just so much. I just couldn't put it all. But anyways, this is the general impact that started, and I think what's interesting about that is that the idea for Deaf Kids Code started actually 4 years before I founded it, because I was so sure that somebody somewhere was going to start an organization like this because it was so logical. And I really did. I really absolutely believe that. I had no desire to start an organization whatsoever. That was not like in my landscape of dreams or aspirations, you know? And then 4 years later, when my son was hitting puberty, the sense of urgency arrived, and it's like, okay, then it's going to be me. It's going to be me. This is it. I mean, this is the universe saying that, you know, that nobody believes what I believe. I'm the only believer. How am I going to build a tribe of believers, right? Because if you look at the data of like education outcomes and a variety of other things, this was not a data-driven decision, other than the fact that I was a mother, and for years, you know, after joining this, you know, grassroots organization, becoming heavily involved with advocacy and activism, you know, being a frontline advocate, working with the health department and working with families that are newly diagnosed, you know, I really felt like there was nothing to lose. There was nothing to lose. What am I going to lose? What's there to lose? What's going to be the loss? The loss is that nothing happens, right? The loss is that this population remains stagnant and unmoved to where they are. I didn't care about what's going to happen to me. What's going to happen to me? I'm a fraud. I'm whatever. I mean, that was not my issue, because again, you know, you don't become a leader doing anything based on ego, and also with the idea that I'm just going to learn how not to do things. So it's going to be, you know, testing these pilots out and getting the feedback and then perfecting it and making it better and better and better. And one of the virtues where I was able to get schools to want to bring programming into was the fact that we were free. We were a valuable free resource, and we still are. All of our programming is 100% free, every time, everywhere, no matter where it is. That's the signing of the state-funded program. And do you recognize the guy in the middle with the pen? So that's Mike Pence. He was the former governor. At the time, he was the governor of Indiana before all that. So it's quite crazy. So you can see that the road to impact is that you have to be a no matter what person. And you don't know like what that cause is, right? And it may not be a cause, it could be just a value system where it's like, okay, even if I'm working at Burger King and I'm, you know, the shift manager, but I'm no matter what, like this is the standard, right? It starts with integrity, I think, you know, that's where like the starting point is like your level of integrity and no matter what. And then of course, the no matter what attitude becomes so much easier when you're doing something that you are passionate about, something that, you know, your internal soul is on fire for, something you're building, something you're creating, a world you want to see, you know, whatever that is. Oh, we went through the slides fast. Okay, so now imagine my son, when he was diagnosed, he had no language at the age of 4. He couldn't even be graphed on any language assessment tests. Couldn't even be graphed. He was ungraphable. That they actually had to take another paper and tape it to the grid of assessments because he was below the lowest average. That's how deprived he was of language and, you know, and everything. And he was 10 steps behind all of his peers. you know. And now he is this like extraordinary kid that during COVID, so he plays the violin, he loves music. He loves music. He started a band during COVID. He started a band in my basement because he loves the guitar. And, you know, and started this band, and, you know, and they've played at a couple of fundraisers supporting other causes. But I'm not telling you that because I'm bragging on him. I'm telling you that because that's the power of belief. That's the power of a belief system, right? A kid that never heard perfect pitch, but he's going to play the guitar. And he's going to play it very well, as I'm going to demonstrate to you. A deaf kid jamming and ripping it up who never heard perfect pitch in his life. Oh, I hope there's volume. Get captions for your... Oh no. Let's see, how do we do volume? Is there a volume button? Let's see. Let me see. Well, that's tragic. Oh, wait. Let's see. Okay, well, I can try it again. Let's see. One more shot. No. Okay, well, I have no idea. Huh? I have it on my phone. You wanna? I'm telling you, it's like, it's incredible. It is. It's, well, this is a small enough group. We can, let's see if I can pull it up here. Because it really is so remarkable. And it is one of those, I mean, I guess these are supposed to be inspirational talks, right? So I'm here to do justice to the cause. Let's see, how do we, let's see. Okay, I think I'll just pull it up from my Facebook, if it'll pull up. Let's see here. It's remarkable. He loves B.B. King and all of that. Let's see. This is it. Let's see if it'll play. Let's see if it'll go. Torture. This is like such torture. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be invited again to talk. It was so bad. Let's oh, I don't know why it's not pulling up. Maybe I should take it off the light. Here we go. Oh my gosh, good Lord. Come on, come on. I don't know why it's like, it's just like this tiny little snippet, doggone it. Well, anyways, you know, so they said that I'm supposed to leave some time for Q&A. But, so if you guys have questions while this is being pulled up, feel free to ask. Here we go. Hi. It's got to be the internet, you know, just faulty signal in this technology-riddled school, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, which is like really such a shame, because I really wanted you to hear what is the possibility, you know, of like when you reach, you know, adversity in your life, that this is something to resonate with you, something that, you know, that you can carry with you to say that, you know what, like there's just no excuse not to embrace my greatness. Okay, maybe this is it. And that was prolific. That wasn't written music. That's a deaf kid for you. That's a deaf kid. You had to see it. You had to see it. So at least in your lifetime, you know, when you are interacting with someone with a disability, you too have to have the growth mindset. And that also goes when you're working with people that may come from disenfranchised communities. One of the biggest topics going on right now in industries around the country, and particularly multinationals, is diversity, inclusion, and equity in the workplace. And a lot of companies are now reevaluating what their values are. And it's so important, right? Because if you're going to be working with teams, you're going to be collaborating with other people, if you don't have the right synergy and the right people that embody those values and principles, then it's going to be a downfall. And then it's only when something catastrophic happens that now everybody is like, oh man, like this should have been like in our playbook from day one. So I'll tell you quickly, like our organization. So I developed the values and what was going to be the first principle of our organization. So the first principle is that the digital age is the great equalizer. A first principle is very powerful and very potent to have because it's the one undiluted fact, right? That's like the starting gate. That's the key that's like opening the door. And then we have 4 values. The first is, you know, the capacity for greatness. So we get approached by a lot of different companies and organizations and for-profit institutions. And we love collaboration and we love partnerships and we've done a lot of them. But we don't want people to partner with us or join in our organization that have sympathy and pity for our community. We want people to believe that this is an underestimated community, untapped talent pool, and we believe that they're worth our investment. And there's a big difference because if we didn't have that, then we're going to remain where we were for the last 3-4 decades. We're not moving the needle forward, right? The second is not for sale. And this one has been a very, very, probably one of the most essential values. Not for sale means that anytime a company is approaching us, they have products or, whatever, we have to be very careful in weighing out that balance of a decision, meaning that, well, we're not selling or pimping out anybody's product. We don't want your money. We don't want to sell anything. We don't want kickbacks because this community has been exploited for far too long. So that's full stop. And also making sure that our community is not being used to be potential consumers. So even though maybe out the gate it's not so blatant about can you sell our product, which we have been asked, or things like that, but we want to make sure that the community that we're supporting is not in a position of being exploited, directly or indirectly. The third value is get in the ring. So if we have a choice when we're navigating conversations with companies, like Google or Microsoft or AWS or whatever, based systems, the biggest thing is that, you know what, we don't want your money because money alone is not solving this equity issue. We want you to partner with us by providing internships, shadowing opportunities, career panels, blah, blah, blah. Anything, that provides more skin in the game. And then the last value is zero barrier to access, which means that educators, institutions, partners, parents, students do not pay anything to have a Deaf Kids Code experience brought into their environment. And and really it is so important, and there's a lot of data saying that, one